Anna waited for more information, but he said nothing. He let his words settle in the air like mist falling to the valleys and watched for her reaction. It made no difference to her. She didn't believe brick and stone or anything inanimate could be possessed. "Do they exorcise houses?" she asked. He exhaled audibly, his cheeks ballooning. "My dad allowed a priest to do it to make my mom feel better. They're both gone now. Nilla and I have been living here since 2003, and I've never had a problem. I've had Tibetan Buddhists here, psychics, feng shui experts, very spiritual in-tune people, and none of them have sensed any evil." "That's good to know." It didn't come into play when she took on a client, and it was none of her business. But what sort of person thought a feng shui expert was spiritual? More important, why did Paxton Birch's mother feel the need to have an exorcism performed on her home? On the other hand, Nilla has felt things. Like what? I think she's overly sensitive, but I thought you should know that in light of what I want to ask you. He hesitated again. That and the way he'd ignored her last question made Anna uncomfortable, but Paxton seemed a decent enough man, and the prospect of working in his library intrigued her. "I'm listening." "You know the murder was officially declared an accident?" "I thought it was still an open question." "To most people, it is. There was a huge outcry at the time, talk of a cover-up. Then weird things started happening at the house, hence the legend." Again he puffed out his cheeks. "But legend isn't good enough. The Ryant folks discovered there was no official declaration of murder, so if they still buy the house, and that's a big if, it will be for far less than it's worth." "You mean they want to buy the house with its reputation intact?" Paxton smiled. "Exactly." "The history of the house isn't enough?" "Not without a murder." "Where do I come in?" "Ah." It was half word, half sigh. He was loosening up. Her quick grasp of the situation was making it easier for him to state his purpose. "I have 4 days, 5 at the most, before the developer calls off the deal. And if it falls through, it may be years before I have another opportunity like this. If you could finish your research as quickly as possible, it would help." "How soon I finish is going to depend on what's here and how quickly I can find it." She tilted her head at the shelves to her left, emphasizing the challenge before her. "I understand that, but I've got this time limit." What Paxton was asking her was beginning to sink in. "Do you mean you want me to finish researching your family tree in 4 or 5 days? If this deal goes through, I'll make a lot of money. If it doesn't, I'll have to sell the house at a loss. Yesterday, you gave me a rough estimate on this job. I'll pay you triple that." He punctuated his last word with a palm slap to the arm of his chair. Triple? That was more than enough to reshingle her roof. She desperately needed to do that. She needed the money, period. Her mortgage had been paid off with insurance money after her husband's death, but Sean hadn't thought to cover more than the house. Why would he? No one expects to die at 35. At that age, you have all the time in the world. For nearly 2.5 years, the bills for everything from car repairs to groceries had been her responsibility alone. It wore on her. She needed a buffer, a little room to breathe in her bank account. And if she didn't repair the roof now, other problems, like water damage, would only make matters worse. That's very generous. The prospect of finishing such a job in 4 or 5 days was daunting. It could take 50, 60 hours of work. There was no way to know. But it might take less time than that, and the rewards were tremendous. "There's more." Anna sat straighter in her chair. She waited. "Yes?" "I want you to prove my house is haunted."